What's up, Running Out the Clock listeners? This is Chandler. I'm one of our regular hosts, and I'm introducing today a weekly podcast, short weekly podcast, specific to Ole Miss that I'm tentatively calling Okay, I've Got Some Thoughts. Mostly because Joseph and Rowe took the far better name, Monday Morning Pessimist, but that's neither here nor there. But if you follow me on Facebook, you've seen I've written a couple of pieces from my own personal blog that don't have anything to do with running out the clock. I've written a couple of posts about that I've called Okay, I've Got Some Thoughts, and so I just kind of thought that was the way to go. So this is going to be a short recap each week about what's going on with Ole Miss and what it looks like from a fan's perspective, and So this is the first episode. Like I said, it's going to be a weekly take on the weekend's events in Ole Miss football, and I'm going to be offering up some takes as cold as an Abner's chicken tray in the Grove. So as I sit here this afternoon, it is Monday, October the 1st at 3 o'clock. It's a couple days after the 45-16 loss in Baton Rouge. There's really no point in dissecting the game or the stats or anything like that. The basic truth is this. The LSU offense, who's ranked 14th out of 14 in the SEC, racked up yards and points at will on the Ole Miss defense. If you kind of look through, and like I just said, I don't really want this to be just, kind of breaking down stats or wins and losses or anything like that. I mean, you can get information like that literally anywhere, and you'll get better information literally anywhere than you'll get it from me. But just for the kind of the sake of my point, as you're kind of looking at this, again, LSU's offense ranked 14th out of 14 in the SEC. Joe Burrow threw for 292 yards and 3 touchdowns, and as a team, LSU rushed for 281 yards and 3 touchdowns with, again, Joe Burrow being the leading rusher. Again, noted dual threat quarterback Joe Burrow. So that's pretty embarrassing. But I say that to say it just highlights the obvious talent issue on the Ole Miss defense. And it's obvious. It's obvious that Ole Miss is not putting out SEC caliber players on the defensive side of the ball. And even the SEC caliber players that Ole Miss had are dealing with the lingering effects from injury or are currently out with injury. Montreal Custis and Jalen Jones being a couple of guys who started the season really well, looked good in some early games, and got hurt, both with torn ACLs and are out for the year. So an already not talented defense has now lost what little talent it had and some of its depth. And look, the talent deficiency side of things really can only be fixed with recruiting. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while to kind of get that problem fixed. And sorry about that. My computer just started playing an ad on the ESPN site. That was very annoying. Anyway, no, it's a talent issue that's going to take some years to fix. You've got to be very aggressive in recruiting. You've got to go out and you've got to make sure that you're getting guys, that you're not missing on guys. Because look, I've already written at length other places about Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze definitely has has to claim a lot of responsibility for this because he was the one who really, really, really dropped the ball in recruiting defensive players for several years. And the fact remains that this is the team that Hugh Freeze would have had on the field were he still the head coach at Ole Miss. But the fact remains that Hugh Freeze is not the head coach at Ole Miss. Matt Luke is the head coach at Ole Miss. Matt Luke is the one who is on the sideline. And Matt Luke is the one who is charged with rebuilding this program. So it's a mess he didn't create, but again, he took the job. He knows the responsibility, so he's got to fix this. And look, the reality is, if nights like Saturday night happen many more times, I don't see how this works. I did another podcast earlier in the year to kind of talk about what consistency for the Matt Luke, or what success for the Matt Luke era might look like, and consistency really was the answer. There's got to be consistency on the field, off the field, and so far the only consistency that's happening is the negative kind. Ole Miss is consistently struggling on defense. They are consistently not doing well on offense against better teams, and so it just becomes more and more difficult to watch. And so this thing is not, but this thing is not just about losing. It's not just about winning. It's not just about losing. I mean, obviously, you would rather win than lose, but it's more of the way that you saw the loss go down. I mean, from the opening kickoff, Ole Miss gets the opening kickoff. They trot out onto the field to run their first play, and they get hit with a delay of game. And I mean, that just kind of set the tone for the game because Ole Miss ended up coming very close to setting a school record both for the number of penalties and penalty yardage in a game. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw the stat somewhere that was the most penalties that any team has ever committed against LSU. So it was a historically bad night as far as the things that you kind of look to say this is heading in the right direction. These things are going well for us. There were false starts, there were personal fouls, there were offsides calls, there were crucial pass interference calls. And, Ole Miss went to Baton Rouge knowing it was going to have to play a clean and nearly perfect game, even to just be competitive, not even to win, just to be competitive, just to stay on the same field. And they didn't do that, and they ended up getting blown out. And the reality is, those are the kinds of things that are reflections on the head coach. Those are things that come down to discipline, to coaching, to preparation, to all of those sorts of things. And even though this is Matt Luke's first real year as the head coach, he served as the interim head coach last year, which, that was just a thing that happened. He was the interim coach last year, and he's also been on the Ole Miss staff for several years in several different positions, including, obviously the offensive line coach, but then also served as the assistant head coach. So this is a guy who's had some control over this team. He has had a lot of say in the kind of players that are recruited. He's had a lot of say in the makeup and the attitude and the DNA of the program. And to be as honest as I can, that just was not an encouraging sight for somebody who's been around for a while. There were some other really significant coaching errors. I mean, the vaunted Landshark defense at one point had done the rarest of things for them, and that was get a stop on 3rd and short. And for some reason, as LSU trots out the punt team, Ole Miss calls a timeout. And then right after that, LSU sends the offense out, and they don't even snap the ball. They draw Ole Miss offsides and get the first down, and I believe they went on to score a touchdown on that drive. And so it's just really, really frustrating. It's really frustrating to watch because you want to see some sign of progress. You want to see something that says, hey, you can listen to Matt Luke say in press conferences nonstop, hey, this is on me. I've got to get this fixed. You can only say that so much. Eventually, you've got to start to show it, and it's becoming clear that it's not really happening. And that's the frustrating thing. And when you look even further, this Ole Miss offense has been talked about all offseason as if this is a truly great and a truly elite offense, and it has the potential to be. These running not running backs, these wide receivers are really, really good. This quarterback is a very good college quarterback. He's very serviceable, and they aren't doing anything with him right now. There's no balance. I didn't realize this until I looked at the stats today, but Ole Miss rushed for about 5 yards a carry against a really, really good LSU defense, yet they still were trying to throw the ball deep. They were trying to throw the ball deep. It seems like every play. It seems like their offensive strategy is do some stuff, and if it doesn't work, we'll just throw it deep and think that DK Metcalf is gonna go and beat somebody. And look, I'm a huge believer. I'm a huge believer in DK Metcalf. I think he's really, really good. Probably a first-round NFL receiver, and I think he's awesome. But you're going up against Greedy Williams, who's maybe the best corner in the country. And so to just go out there and say, well, this is not going to work, we're just going to chuck it deep, it doesn't make sense, especially when you've got a running back who's as good as Scotty Phillips. He has 16 carries for 96 yards and a touchdown. And realistically, that number needs to be up. That number needs to be up a lot more than 16 carries. That number needs to be between 20 and 25 a game because he's that good. But on top of that, you had Isaiah Woolard, who showed that he may be a pretty serviceable backup. You had Armani Linton, who played well. You had a handful of guys who really got out there and ran the ball well and played well. And, again, they were getting about 5 yards a carry, and yet Longo and company decided they were going to keep throwing the ball deep. So I don't get that. And so here's the thing. This is what it all kind of comes down to. It's at this point, Ole Miss's season is not about wins and losses. We know that they are not going to a bowl. They're ineligible for a bowl game this year. But I don't actually know at this point that matters, because I don't see a team out there right now that I look at and think that they have another guaranteed win on the schedule. And yeah, losing really sucks. No fans want to lose. But this season is about selling the future of your program. It's putting a product on the field that engages fans and makes them want to come to Oxford and enjoy the Grove and go to the game. But the truth of the matter is, unfortunately, that fans are not excited about Matt Luke. I mean, we were promised all season last year that this was going to be a national coaching search. We were going to go and we were going to vet the best candidates, and we were going to get somebody really, really good to come in and lead our program. And we ended up with a guy who's never had a head coaching job before. He's never been so much as a coordinator. And that was a thud. Even for people who believe in Matt Luke and think that he's going to be a great coach, which I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that that's true, even they had to be a little bit disappointed because, again, we're hiring a guy with no experience at all. And so what Ole Miss needs is not so much winning games, although that wouldn't hurt. What Ole Miss needs is not so much winning games. It's going out and showing and proving that, hey, we're getting better. We're going to improve. We're going to fix these things. And it's kind of one of those things that if you watch football on Saturday, you saw all the SEC first year coaches in action, and several of them did some things that even in losses looked good. Look, I'm the first person that's going to make fun of Jeremy Pruitt, and I think ultimately Jeremy Pruitt is going to fail at Tennessee, and it's going to be spectacularly hilarious. But his team went out and showed a lot of fight against a Georgia team that is clearly head and shoulders better than them. Dan Mullen went to Starkville and beat his old team, and who a lot of people I think considered to be better than Florida. But he went out there and he did it. He won, and he gave his fans something to really feast on and to be encouraged by. Even Chad Morris at Arkansas went out and played a really, really solid game against Texas A&M, a team that they really have no business playing against, really, really no business kind of being in the same game as, and Arkansas kind of made it a game. I mean, go and look at Scott Frost in Nebraska right now. Nebraska's struggling. Nebraska is not doing well. They're 0-5. And that's really frustrating if you're a Nebraska fan. But Scott Frost in his post-game press conference, went out and really said some of the right things. He really said, hey, look, these are not the guys that I recruited. These are not the guys that I wanted for the program, but they're the guys we have. And so, we're fixing to go out. We're fixing to start working them really, really hard. And if they quit, well, we never had them in the first place. And so you want to hear something like that from Matt Luke, something more than just kind of the coach speak as he's done every week. Oh, this is on me. We've got to fix this and this. It's about our eye focus and blah 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 whatever. Nobody cares. At some point, you've got to show the fan base that this is something that you take seriously. And here's the thing: nobody doubts that he takes it seriously, right? Like there are very few people that love Matt Luke. I mean, that love Ole Miss more than Matt Luke and his family. He's a legacy player. He was a walk-on center. His brother played quarterback. You know, there are so many things about the Luke family and Ole Miss. Obviously, they love Ole Miss. Obviously, he cares. Obviously, he's passionate about the program. But at some point, you've got to start to show us something. At some point, you've got to show some real fire in the belly, some real concern for the direction of the program. Because right now, fans aren't excited about Matt Luke. You know, right now, fans don't trust the administration. And they haven't really seen anything on the field that looks and says, oh, this is going to get better. And to be completely honest, haven't really seen anything in recruiting that makes you think that either. You know, there's a handful of good players that they've got committed right now, but it's going to be a fight to keep those players as they continue to watch Ole Miss struggle against these top-level SEC teams. Because it's a big deal. It's a big deal to go to Baton Rouge and play. It's a big deal to get to go to Tuscaloosa or to have LSU or Alabama come to your place. You get to go against the teams that look like the best. And the last thing you want to do is just lay a complete egg. And so Ole Miss has got to find something, anything, to show progress. And I'm not a guy who likes to call for coaches' jobs in the middle of the season or really at all. But I think you can pretty clearly look and see that Phil Longo and Wesley McGriff are not cutting it. They're not getting it done. And the influx of talent needed to at least make Wesley McGriff's job better, that's not coming. And so you've got to make some very, very difficult decisions. But if you don't make them, if you push it back too far, you kick that decision can too far down the road, you run the risk of losing a lot of fans. And it's not that they walk away angry. It's just that they walk away because it becomes so much easier to just turn the game on at home, watching your big screen TV, you know, cook your own food on your big green egg. You get to drink your own bourbon, have your own beer, use your own bathroom. Everything about it is easier than packing up the family, going up, spending several $100s to go to Oxford and watch the game. And so at the end of all this, on Saturday, Ole Miss is going to go back to Oxford. They're going to play the University of Louisiana Monroe. And it's a game that, honestly, I think Ole Miss is going to struggle in, but probably by the end of it, they'll pull away. They'll pull away and get the win. They may even cover the spread. But the stats and who wins the game aren't the main story. If you want to know the main story, if you want to know what really the pulse of the Ole Miss fan base is and where this thing is headed, take a look in the crowd. Take a look at the stands. I can't imagine that it's going to be a really, really big crowd, but it may be a potentially program-damaging crowd. It may be the kind of crowd that makes you look and say, okay, we can't continue with what we're doing, even if we're only 5 or 6 games into the real deal here. And I've said it several times, and I'll say it again. I don't think this is a fair situation for Matt Luke, but he knew this was the situation he was going to get in when he took the job. He took the job knowing where things were, and now it's his responsibility. And so I'll close with that. I'll close with this, that I was watching a couple of different games Saturday. We were in and out, family weddings, different things like that going on, a lot of time in the car. But we had a chance to watch the end of the Florida-Mississippi State game. And after the big sack on 4th down, where Florida gets the ball back on the 4th down conversion to take a knee, run the clock out, and win the game, they caught a close-up of Joe Moorhead on the sidelines. And the look on his face, to me, it screamed the facial expression of a man who is coming to the realization that he is in over his head. And then I realized that was Matt Luke's face all the time. And so if you're Ole Miss, I don't know what to say. I don't know what you say or what you do for your fans that makes this feel any better, that makes this go any better. But here we are. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, as a fan, it's frustrating and it's hard to watch and it's hard to kind of come to terms with, especially considering where we were just a few short years ago. But that's the state of the program right now. And so if you're Ole Miss, you've got to hope not just that you'll go out and you'll beat Louisiana Monroe, but you've really got to hope that some different things can start to break your way, because you need some sort of optimism. You need some sort of excitement in the program to kind of keep the pulse alive. And how you do that, I don't know. But I'm not the person that's paid $1 million to do it. So thanks for listening. This was okay. I've got some thoughts. I reserve the right to change the name of this podcast, but for now, that's what it is. Be sure to check out Running Off the Clock. We've got a Facebook page. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. That'll give you this podcast every time it gets posted. It'll give you our weekly podcast every time it gets posted, and then it'll also give you the various other shows that Joseph and Keith and Roe will be doing. So again, thanks for listening, and I will be back next week to talk more about my thoughts. Thanks for listening.